Hello, you are tuned in to AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng. Today we are taking a closer look at a company that uses data to keep everyday systems running, from keeping the lights on to making sure the cereal that you eat tastes the same every time. Joining me on the show today is Caspar Herzberg. He is the CEO of AVEVA, which is one of the world's leading industrial software companies. Thank you so much, Caspar, for taking the time to speak with me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And welcome
here.
back to Kuala Lumpur.
Fantastic to be here.
Okay. All right. So AVEVA is a company that works quietly behind the scene. Yep. Not many people know of the name. So let's start with that. What do you actually do, and why should people care about the company?
Well, you said it yourself very, very nicely. We are an industrial software company. What that means is that we design, we operate, and we optimize with our software industrial assets. So you have to imagine this is anything from a nuclear power station to a refinery to a milk bottling plant to a shipyard that builds a ship, a cruise ship or a massive container ship. All of these, what we call industrial assets, are designed with AVEVA software and are then operated and optimized, meaning made better, with AVEVA software. So you mentioned the yogurt or the milk that you eat. This is a bottling plant. It would run on AVEVA software. The quality of the yogurt would be assured by AVEVA software. The water that you consume, that you take a shower with in the morning or that you drink, it would come from one of the big utilities that assures the quality of that water, that manages the pumps that pump this water with AVEVA software in an efficient and clean way. So this is what we do, and it's fun. It's true, not everyone knows us, especially in the consumers. But it's a good feeling to work in a company where you know that much of the world relies on the fact that the software works well.
So you are essentially everywhere, just that you're not usually mentioned by consumers, but you run the operations, or rather the systems, the software behind it. Okay, so just taking a look at AVEVA's history, the company has been around for more than half a century.
Yes.
Yet, if you take a look at some of the biggest technological advancements, we're looking at data, analytics, AI. This happened, I think, largely in the last decade or so, right? So, in your opinion, why did the pace speed up, and how has that change the way you run your business, or rather your clients? How are they running business differently now?
Well, I think the important thing with technology is that it is a tool. It is a tool to achieve something that you want. So our customers use technology, AVEVA technology, other people's technology, in order to achieve outcomes. And the more you know what you want to achieve, the better you will be at using and at identifying which technologies to use. Now, to the question of the advancements, I would say there are two in recent time. One is clearly the internet, the ability to move data from one place to another at scale, right? And how that led to the cloud and the ability to see data in the cloud, to work with it. I think this is one big change in the last 20 years or so, 15 years or so, that has led to changes and to a lot of opportunity in the world of industry on how to make better use of the data, how to analyze it, how to use AI, you mentioned it, in order to predict which machines will break down 1 year from now, 1.5 years from now, and what to do about it now instead of waiting until it surprises you when, as happened in Heathrow, for example, last year, a substation in your electrical distribution system blows up. These things you can predict, successfully predict, and this is probably the key driver of making use of AI in the industrial world. It is the ability to predict and then to act on these predictions.
And so in your role, where do you see are some of the areas where you think companies are perhaps investing at this point?
So clearly, all across the world, in some places more than others, utilities, specifically electrical utilities, have underinvested in digitization and have underinvested in the ability to model and act on predictions in their networks. This is a global issue. It's more pronounced in parts of the world. It is probably a lot more advanced, interestingly enough, in Asia. I mean, the electrification of China, for example, is one example where a lot of technology was put into the system to manage the flow of energy. But generally, when compared, for example, to the oil and gas industry, that are early adopters at digitization and what you can do with digitization, there are differences in both how the industry uses, digital technology, and in how the industry, as a result of that, is ready for the use of industrial AI.
Can I pick your point about when you say you observed that some parts of the world are investing more heavily in this sort of technology, and Asia? Why is Asia more advanced in a sense?
I think that because Asia is very competitive, and Asian nations are very competitive and they compete with each other and they compete with the rest of the globe. They're also quite good at long-term strategic planning, and digitization lends itself to strategic planning. So you have Malaysia, you have Singapore, you have Korea, you have countries that have invested nationally in both the backbone, the digital backbone, and in prioritizing industries that work in digitization. Semiconductors is one example, right? So as a result of that, they leapfrog, and now they're quite ahead in the frog that's quite ahead of other frogs, if you like. And I do see that in parts of industry in the Americas as well.
Where do you see areas that are putting most strain on operations right now, based on the clients that you're seeing?
So, I mean, one thing to say is clearly the advent of AI and the big data centers that serve AI, in combination with the data centers that serve everyone, right? That's putting a lot of strain on both, on the network, on the.
So it's a dilemma. So you need more energy for AI at the same time.
Yeah. At the same time, you can use AI to significantly reduce the energy that you use. So the best energy is the energy you don't use. I mean, this is a fact, right? This is the cleanest energy. So there is a lot that AI, industrial AI, predictive analytics, for example, can do to significantly reduce the energy consumption, for example, of pumps. I mean, pumps use a lot of energy, of chemical plants, so there's a lot of optimization that you can still do. And my argument would be that what you save in industry, it can power what you need in, let's say, in data centers, right? But of course, it means you have to use AI for constructive and useful things, so maybe less cat videos and more optimizing industrial processes.
That's where I'm going to get at. So where are the areas where you see most impact or measurable impact, and where do you see where AI is more promise than a reality?
So very clearly in industry, when you combine predictive analytics, so using algorithms to take time series data, so this is the data that measures the temperature of a machine or a pump, the vibration of it, and you analyze that, you can predict when a turbine, for example, will go down. When you are able to predict that correct, you will save tens of millions, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in, by doing preventive or predictive maintenance. So this is clearly an area where AI has massive benefit, right? If you then combine that with large language models, and you allow an operator, like a new engineer or an engineer, to make sense of, in the average plant you have 100, 150 manuals, no one reads them. And AI can summarize the manuals, can give advice, And the engineer then can decide, based on what he or she sees, what the correct action is. This is a very useful way of using AI. This works pretty much in any type of rotating equipment. Wind farms, another big example, right? A lot of times wind farms stop, especially when they're in the sea. It takes a long time to fix them. If you can predict when they start to have struggle and the operator can schedule the maintenance, you make a wind farm operator significantly more profitable, right? Which is good for the planet, good for everyone. There are clearly other areas where you wonder sometimes when you look at your Instagram feed if this is the best use of AI, but I leave that to others too.
I think now companies are facing pressure. It does sound like they are told, to cut energy costs, cut the use of electricity, but at the same time, they are also sucking up energy because of the demand for AI. So is this even realistic? And when will such a predictive technology, the ones that you mentioned, be able to offset the consumption of energy, the cost of consumption of energy?
I think more widespread adoption across industry, I think will definitely pay for what we want to do in terms of investing more into AI. I think also at the same time, I mean, the energy transition is happening. A lot of new generation sources are coming. There's a nuclear renaissance at the same time happening, meaning people are reinvesting in nuclear power as well. So I think it's absolutely possible to put enough generation together to be more efficient, more smart in how you distribute energy, and in making the processes on the industrial side much more energy efficient to allow a world that has the energy it needs. Absolutely.
So what's interesting is that you see some companies are on board and are doing well, and some are seemingly still firefighting, I would say. So what separates the two? What separates companies that invest well in technology and don't?
Well, we are in Malaysia, so let me use Petronas as an example. Petronas uses predictive analytics in upstream. They do extremely well with it. They save a lot of money by predicting when assets have issues and taking the necessary action. This is clearly a company that has, from the top down, understood the power that digital brings and is also very clear about what they want to do with it. I mean, they use it to optimize industrial processes, to save energy, and to predict when machines go down. The challenge sometimes not just in industry, but generally in business, is that new technologies come. It's very fashionable to experiment with them. It's not really clear what they are meant to be used for. Large implementations happen, and then leaders change, and the adoption in the business isn't big, and people move on, and then it's the equivalent of digital ruins that you have in your company. This does happen, absolutely, right? But again, I go back to what we said at the very beginning of our conversation. Digital, AI, all of these are just tools. You need to know what you want to do. And when you know what you want to do as a leader, as a business leader, as a business, then you find the right technologies that support that, not the other way around.
So tech matters, but leadership matters just as much.
And common sense.
And common sense. Okay, so let's zoom out for a moment, looking at where the world is heading. We are in the middle of a tech race or rivalry, predominantly the US and China. We're seeing restrictions on chip imports, on critical software, not just minerals, critical softwares as well. From where you sit, do you see that clients are being forced to rethink where to invest and how they invest because of the geopolitical tensions that we're seeing?
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that we are at the, not at the beginning, but in the middle of a complete reshufflement of the global economic order, right? I mean, what has worked the past 50, 60 years will no longer work. And we probably go more to a world that is similar to the 19th century, when you have a lot of competing nation states and they try to leverage everything at their power in order to do well. And that means that supply chains are going to be continuously reconfigured as you react to these changes. right? So the businesses that are able to react, not just in the enterprise, but across their supply chain, where you buy, how you buy, who you sell to, in the most flexible and dynamic way to something that will change, well, sometimes changes every week or every day, but definitely changes over months. Those businesses that do well there, they will outperform those that don't. And one of the key ingredients of doing well there is to understand what data you have, what that data is, not just your sales data or who you sell to, where usually a lot of the focus is, but your production data, your sourcing data, your industrial data, right? And if you're able to share that effectively across your supply chain, then you're able to become much, much, much more nimble, much faster in, changing processes, buying somewhere else, building a new plant somewhere else. I think this is the response, the smart response to this changing world.
That sounds like there is more investment. So do you see that companies are investing maybe twice as much just to manage that geopolitical risk or duplicate systems even?
Yeah. I see that smart companies, smart supply chains invest in understanding the data that they have. This is not necessarily building new systems or necessitates large investments. This is in breaking down the silos that sit even within a company where processes, where people, departments don't share data with each other. And they share even less of that data with other companies. When you're able to break down these silos, access this data, and make informed decisions at the leadership level, and delegate that then you will outperform. But that's not necessarily big investments. That's a change in thinking, in how you think about. Most data is trapped. You have to imagine that. The value is trapped within an organization. And you want to free that data.
Okay. Yeah. It makes sense of the data. Okay, I want to bring this closer to home. So Malaysia wants to move up the value chain, but if you look at adoption of industrial intelligence, it is still quite uneven. I think where local companies, I think the smaller ones especially, are facing budget constraints, talent constraints as well. So in your view, where are the local companies getting right? You mentioned Petronas, but if you were to look at perhaps then industries or maybe the smaller supply chain providers, where are they getting right and where are they falling behind in respect to Malaysia?
So, I mean, what my impression is a slightly different. So my impression is that there is a massive amount of digital talent in Malaysia. I want to start with the talent. We have a very big office here. We have 200 plus people. Some of the best people that serve customers in Malaysia and in Asia in general are here. And digital adoption, understanding of what is possible, of what is also possible in the future, is very high. And my understanding is that's a fairly widespread in Malaysia. When I see at the adoption, now I personally interact more with bigger companies, but when I see, for example, the digital adoption in water, I mentioned earlier clean water. I mean, some of the most impressive systems are here in Malaysia, serving everyone. Now you can say these are state-owned companies, so they have more money, true. But nevertheless, there is a level of sophistication here that you don't see everywhere. Now, when it comes to smaller companies, a lot of small companies are quite sophisticated here. They use, for example, from us, our SCADA products. They do look on how they can access that same data that I talked about that is trapped, how to access that, how to make smart decisions in their processes. So I would say that one can always do more, but the overall level of digital maturity, if that's a word, is fairly high in Malaysia across all sectors.
But if I can probe a bit further, where do you think we are falling behind, or maybe under-investing?
Well, again, it comes to what do you want to do. I as a nation, if you want your small and medium business sector to prosper and digitize aggressively, then you need national strategies that support specifically that sector or a subsector. You need to identify where exactly you want to do that. This has worked well in other countries, and it's maybe something to double down on here as well.
Okay. So I want to touch on talent. When people talk about automation or AI, people tend to worry about losing their jobs. But from where you sit, are roles disappearing or are they changing?
You know, I think about this a lot, and I'm increasingly coming to the conclusion that at least in the world of industry, there are actually not enough people for the jobs, not the other way around. So I'm not disputing that there are some repetitive tasks, not necessarily jobs, that will disappear because of AI, but I don't see massive reductions in the workforce, at least in the world of industry that we serve, as a result of AI. I don't see it. I want to be very
So
clear.
when you say there are not enough people for certain parts of the ecosystem, where are they?
So,
what are the roles?
chemical industry, just to give you one example, most heavy industries, most process industries struggle to find the talent, struggle to find the people that want to work there, enough people. So actually using AI as decision support for the next generation that comes into the job, you know, capturing what older engineers know and make that available to new employees, you know, to graduates. I think that's a huge value add of AI. And I think that's going to be very, very needed, because the biggest problem we have in industry is not AI. It's that there is a whole generation of experienced people that is retiring. This is the problem in AVEVA. We're an industrial software company, so we have, you know, a lot of very experienced people. There's a problem in industry in general. And the biggest benefit AI is going to bring is to act as an advisor to the next generation. I don't see mass displacement of people by AI. I can't speak for other industries like insurance, or I can't speak for that. But in what we cover, I don't see it.
Okay. In this world of AI and automation, where do you see that? This is a bigger picture sort of question. Where do you see that human plays a more important role, not less? Because when you talk about technology and automation, we tend to reduce a human to, repetitive tasks, automation, machine. But where do you see the role of human that plays even a more important role than before?
Well, I mean, we talked earlier about how to predict correctly what is going to happen in your supply chain, how to reconfigure accordingly, how to make the right decisions, you know, also when they are unpopular or not necessarily, you know, when it's the first time. This is something that AI will empower humans to make those decisions, so that you are not so surprised by industrial events, by systems not working, by sudden changes in production quality, etc. I think that people will make a lot more forward-looking decisions in the industrial world as a result of the advice they get. And I think this is a benefit AI brings, and I think that this is something that will require talent, because someone who is not a talent will not make those decisions, right? So I think it's going to be very important to finding the people that want to make decisions, that are motivated, that care about the job they do, and that they work in industry.
Okay. Now let me end with this. Now, if you were advising a CEO today, which I know happens a lot of time, but maybe
a
someone...
A lot of CEOs advise me.
So. I'm sure they come to you for advice. And it's overwhelming. What do you invest in? How much do I invest in? What is my ROI? What do you think are some of the decisions that they cannot delay any longer, that they need to invest now to future-proof their business?
I think you have to be very clear. I go back to that. To be very clear on what you want to do as a business, and very clear in a very complex world, in a world that is changing, in a world where the supply chains are changing, where you get distracted every morning by the news, and you think, oh my God, what is this going to mean for us today, right? what do you want to achieve in this world next year, the year after, in 5 years, and take this long-term view of where you want the business to be, and then reconfigure everything else accordingly. It sounds really easy, it's really hard to do. I think this is the thing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Caspar, for your time. I appreciate your insights very much.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great to be here.